Can't get any words. Podcast on blast, giving you the real talk, no holding back. Can't get any worse, we'll make you see. There's always a silver lining. We'll set you free, so join the movement. Let's change the game with the Can't Get Any Worse Podcast.
Welcome back to the Can't Get Any Worse Podcast, where we're coming off the back of one of our biggest mental breakdowns to date. But guess what? We're going to mask that shit. That's what expert mental illness people and autistic people do. They bury that shit down, and we come to entertain the masses. So, welcome back to another week. Tuesday for you guys, Monday for me. Nothing out of the ordinary. It's cold as fuck though. I think this could be the first time I've ever worn a jumper on the podcast. Even back in the early guest days, I reckon. It's always I think we've harped on enough about how hot and shit it gets in here. But it's a bit chilly here on my Monday morning. Hopefully you guys are coming off the back of a great weekend. Let's start with how my weekend was. My wife took a little work trip to Melbourne, her first time to Melbourne, so would have been cold as shit down there as well. So who am I to complain about the coolness in Logan today? Anyway, let's start by saying hats off to all the single parents out there, stay-at-home dads, stay-at-home mums, whatever category you fall in. If you have to deal with children on your own, hats off to you. I'm going to have a sip of my whiskey right now for all of you guys. Ugh. But basically, she left at like 6 a.m. Saturday morning, and it was almost as if as soon as that door shut and mum was out of the picture, both boys just fucking turned it on. They're like, boys' weekend, let's run amok. Let's do gross shit. Let's swear. Let's be the most feral kids we can be. So that was a fun time all around, I reckon. I guess the saving grace, I suppose, is obviously Westy gets pretty nervous about heaps of shit, and he was like, this is probably the longest he's spent away from Nikita, I guess, in time-wise and distance-wise. So when Nikita first found out about the trip, he goes, oh, can I have a sleepover at one of my best mates' house? And we're like, that works out, makes it easier for me, and also probably gives him a bit of peace of mind. So I was sitting around all day waiting for him to get picked up so they'd stop bouncing off each other. And P was, to put on top of it all, P was sick as fuck. He's got like this flu thing. Could be another pandemic happening. Who knows? But he was obviously miserable, sick, as 4-year-olds get when they're sick. They don't know how to express how they're feeling, I suppose. So they just be little shits. But no, he was all right. And Westy's friend came to pick him up, and I've gone, okay, Westy's gone. Now, P's sick as fuck. I'll wait a couple of hours, dose him up on all these fucking meds that we've got for him, and he'll be in bed by like 6:30, 7 o'clock maybe. And then old daddy here's got a whole night to himself. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. So I had a rough night mapped out of movies and Fortnite and fucking a bit of writing, bit of this, bit of that, and the clock kept ticking. He kept getting more and more miserable and cranky and just pushing boundaries. And the last time I looked at my watch was 10:30. 10:30 on Saturday night, this kid was still ripping and tearing, just fucking causing chaos. So, that's where that got to. Then Sunday came around and Westy came back, I don't know, probably would have been about 9 o'clock or so, and they just started again. So I dumped him around mum's house for a couple of hours to go to the gym and reset and just recenter my chakra. Recenter my chakra. That's a good one. Anywho, sorry for my autistic brain hears some phrases sometimes. And the other thing, like when I say something like that, part of me is like, that could be an episode title. And when I'm doing this shit on my own, so I don't have to listen back to the whole episode to get an episode title, I try and consciously make an effort as I'm recording. So that's why I sometimes repeat shit. I don't think that's going to be a good title, so that's probably not going to be it. But, Nikita got back about 9 o'clock, 9:30 last night. And then she pretty much had to wake up this morning and go straight to work. So, from all reports, she reckons Melbourne's pretty boring and dirty. So, I don't know. I'll have to get down there myself and check it out, I think. But another thing on, when was this? Must have been Thursday or Friday. Must have been. I don't know. Nikita had something on during the day. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Nikita had to work on a Thursday, which she doesn't normally work Thursdays. So I was on fucking daddy duty then as well. And P and I was sitting here bored. Westy was obviously at school. And I said to P, I'm like, fuck, do you want to go up to Macca's and play on the playground? And he's like, what do you mean? Because whenever we go to Macca's, we just go through the drive-thru. And he goes, is there a playground at Macca's? I'm like, yeah. And then, so we head up there, and this is where the awkwardness starts off. I go, what do you want to get to eat? And he goes, oh, I'm not hungry. And I'm like, well, we have to get something. You can't just come to Macca's and play in their playground without ordering anything. He's like, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat anything. I'm like, how about I just get you a Happy Meal? And if you eat it, you eat it. If not, we'll just put it in the bin. And he's like, no, I just want to play in the playground. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, what about a drink? Let's just get a drink. And he goes, fine, I'll get a frozen Coke. Go to the little fucking touchscreen thing they have these days. Frozen drinks out of order. I'm like, sick. So I go, all right, let's sneak out to the playground without ordering anything. And I felt like a bit of a homeless bloke, hey? I felt like Will Smith in The Pursuit of Happiness when he's walking around with his kid and they can't like afford anything or anything. That's how I felt people were looking at me. But we're playing in the playground. P ends up randomly making friends with these other two kids that are in there. They're having the sickest time ever for maybe 15, 20 minutes or so, right? And I've started to get a little bit bored and antsy. So I've gone, P, let's wrap it up. I go 2 more minutes and he goes 5 more and I go 3 more. He's a master negotiator, this kid. And so I give him a couple of minutes and I go, all right, time's up. Let's go. And I'll take full responsibility for this. Nikita can take a little bit of responsibility as well. Parker has learnt somewhere, not too sure where, because it's not something that I walk around doing frequently, and I don't think I've ever seen Nikita do it. But so I don't know if it's school or like Westy's picked it up from his school and he's doing it in private somewhere and teaching P. But Parker has started flipping the bird, giving the rude finger. And the way that he does it, it's the strongest finger I've ever seen in my life. That just the way that he sets up his stance, like he offsets his body to the side and then he full straight arms out and then like the straightest finger I've ever seen. And it's just so dominant and you can see exactly what the fuck he means by it. So, of course, when he does it, I piss my pants laughing and then I have to be like, oh, no, we don't fucking do that, blah, blah, blah. But then he does it again and it's just, I don't know what it is, just kids swearing and doing shit they're not meant to be doing. It gets to the center of my soul and just makes me laugh. Anyway, back to McDonald's, right? I go, so he's up the top of the playground looking out one of the, they got the big circle fucking windows in a spaceship or whatever. And I look at him, I go, all right, time's up, P, come down. And he just looks at me through this big giant circle bubble and just flips me the bird from the top. And I've tried to keep it composed and I'm like, I think I smiled a little bit and I was like, no, don't do that. Like, obviously the other parents are there as well with their kids and I'm like, fuck, this is so awkward. And I'm like, P, come down now. So he comes down and I'm like, okay, perfect parenting. I've broken the code. I've mastered it, right? So he comes down, he slides down the slide, and as he gets to the ground and jumps out of the slide, he jumps up on his feet and he hits his perfect stance and he just stares into my eyes and just fucking, oh, Jesus. Just straight arms the rude finger straight into my face. And I've gone, what the fuck do I do now? Because obviously these parents are watching. They don't want their kids to pick this shit up. And I've just gone, all right, I'm going to the car, and I've done the whole, like, I'm leaving without you sort of thing. Luckily, he didn't chuck a tantrum or anything. He just followed me straight out the door. And I'm like, I got to the car. I'm like, we don't fucking, no more of that. It's not funny anymore. You've got me. You got me busted in public. The humor in it is all gone. So we're going to stop doing that now. All right, buddy? But, yeah, what else has happened this week? The work has picked back up. I know. Probably a big reason for the whole mental breakdown this morning. But anyway, you guys don't want to hear about that. So let's go to a funny story that happened to me at work this week. It's not even that funny, but everyone I've told has pissed their pants because they can just imagine me doing it. So I'm assuming that you guys are going to be on the same page. So picture this, right? I go and do an install. This was like Wednesday last week, and this was a hot as fuck day. Well, not hot as fuck, but hot for at the moment, right? And I was a little bit sick last week as well, so I had super chapped lips. Super chapped licks? Anyway, so I got a chapstick, and I'm lathering up my lips all fucking day, right? Busting my ass to get this install done. And everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. One of those days, right? Absolute kind of a day. So I've got into my ute at the end of the day. Everything's strapped off, and I've gone to pull out of old mate's driveway. And I've looked down into my cup holder, and I see my chapstick, and my lips are sore. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I'll just fucking get my chapstick. And I've wound it out, right? I'm doing the action for all the audio listeners. And as I've done that, in the heat, the structural integrity of my chapstick has obviously been compromised. So as I've pressed what I thought was going to be a hard chapstick against my lips, just pure mushy goo fucking crushed all against my face, in my moustache, in my beard. It just basically my chapstick melted onto my face. And I was like, fuck, because I'm pulling out of the driveway at the same time. So I'm trying to like do 100 things at once, and my face is just, it looks like I've just been in some sort of fucking bukkake video on Pornhub. About 6 black guys are just blown on my face, and now I'm struggling to know what the fuck to do with. But yeah, it's not a fun thing to be wiping chapstick out of your beard as you're trying to drive after a shitty day of install. So yeah, I don't know. Nobody likes a soggy chapstick at the end of the day. I think that's what we can all take from that story. Yeah, I don't know if that's happened to any of you guys, but before you apply chapstick, always check the temperature because it's not fun. It's not fun at all. Another fucking awkward thing that happened this week. Now, last week we spoke about my run-in with the law. I'm a bit of a bad boy over here, right? Bad boys for life, just like Diddy. And I've done everything to correct that, right? At the start of last week after I recorded the podcast. So my car's fucking registered and insured, blah, 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 blah. I just have to pay the fine still. So anyone needs some cabinet making work done around the southeast Queensland region, hit me up. But yeah, I've sorted all that out. And then it was the day I was home with P, so Thursday. I get a knock on the door, and I'm like, oh, that's fucking weird. Who would be knocking on my door in the middle of the day? Open it up, and there's a fucking cop standing there, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he's gone, hey, are you the owner of the house? And I've gone, yeah, what the fuck could I have possibly done now? And then I've started to prepare my speech of my car's registered. I've done everything you guys have asked me to do. I'm going to pay the bill in the next like week or two. Like, give me some space. Anyway, then he beats me to it and he goes, look, there was a bit of a, what was the word he used? He used a word. More or less, he insinuated there was a home invasion at the end of our street on last Monday night, right? And he's gone, there's a home invasion. As I was driving back past, I noticed you've got security cameras. He's like, can you just check your garage camera for me on this date, so Monday night at 1 a.m. and see if you can identify any cars that may have gone up or down the street for me. And I've gone, yeah, no worries. So I've pulled my phone out, sus. Red flag number one. I've pulled my phone out and I've clicked on my my camera app and it goes, garage camera is not in use. And I've gone, great. That looks fucking suspicious, doesn't it? So I've turned my phone. I go, look, my garage camera's flat. I'm like, I've been meaning to charge it for the last couple of days. I'll pull it down right now, take it in to charge it. If you call me later today, I'll let you know if there's anything on there, right? And he goes, yeah, no worries. No worries at all. He didn't think anything of it. So he goes, he leaves me his card. He takes my details and I don't hear from him for the rest of the day, right? But then my camera beeps that it's charged. So I go put it back on the house and I'm like, fuck, I'll just check it. So I go to Monday, scroll back to Monday. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, righto. 1 a.m. in the morning. Now, if we cast our minds back to last week's episode, right? We remember that old bug lugs here recorded it late at night. I think, I don't know off the top of my head. It was like 9 o'clock or something at night. So by the time I uploaded all the footage, edited it, started to download it from all the softwares, blah, 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 and then started to upload to YouTube, then I had to do all the YouTube thumbnails, the social fucking clips, blah, 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 right? So a few hours of work. And while I dropped it onto YouTube, it goes, oh, it's going to be fucking 6 hours or something, right? 6 hours to upload. And I'm like, fuck, all right, what can I do to try and stay awake a little bit longer? So I go, I'll go to gym. I'll go to the gym. That'll wake me back up and that'll get me wired to finish all this shit that I've got to get done, right? Now, nobody will guess what fucking time that happened to be. About 1:10 on Tuesday morning. So peak period they were looking, right? So I only must have just missed these cunts by a matter of fucking minutes. So my security footage shows me suspiciously walking out my front door and to my garage, looking around, because I do that every morning, right? When you've had, because as we all know, we've had a home invasion happen here. So ever since that night, I've been cautious as fuck to walk outside in the dark. So I'm on high alert, which as I look back on security footage, looks suspicious as fuck that I'm looking around, scoping joints out. And I've gone, fuck, how am I going to explain this to the cops? Sure enough, next morning he calls me. He goes, hey, mate, just checking how you went with that security footage. And I've gone, look, this is going to sound suspicious, red flag number 2. But the only person and car that I saw around that time period on my cameras was me walking to my car to go to gym. And he's gone, oh, okay, did you see anyone else around the area? And I've gone, no, no one else has driven past on my camera. I don't remember seeing anyone else. I go, the only footage I have, I walked straight from my door to the car and I drove to gym. And he's like, okay, interesting. And then I've started to like get a story ramped up in my head again. And I was about to be like, you can contact my gym. You can fucking get their CCTV footage of me checking in, me checking out, blah, blah, blah. And he's gone, okay, at this stage, just don't worry about sending footage in or anything like that. It's all good. You don't drive the type of vehicle we're looking for. I think they're looking for like some sort of hatchback, like a Corolla or something, I think he said. He goes, all good, mate. We'll touch base if we need your help. And I haven't heard from them since. So I almost went to fucking jail for a crime I did not commit. NCIS. And this is my story. Anyone that fucking... I did a little NCIS clip I did like a social media fucking reel thing. And I spent hours on getting that thing ready. I thought it was funny as shit. And the only reason I decided to turn that into a reel is because it was a bit that I was trying on stage and it was very hit and miss. Some rooms it would crush in, some rooms it wouldn't land in. So I made that reel about it because I'm like, maybe bits that don't work on stage, I can just put together like a little reel and it's out there in some sort of way. So I spent fucking hours clipping this thing together. And then this week, we'll touch on it in my week of comedy, but I decided to try it a few more times on stage. Fucking crushed every time. And I'm like, what the fuck? So maybe because I was spending so much time trying to turn it into a reel, I was like clipping it right down and shit. But yeah, didn't quite get the reception I was hoping for on social media. It got like fucking 3 likes. So if you guys are watching this, head over to @JimmyMisson on Instagram and fucking tap that like button. I was pretty devastated on the performance, to be honest, considering the clip before that was of like, it was a podcast clip and that got like 14,000 views. I was like, fuck. Anywho, it is what it is. You hit and miss. That's the game. Fuck yeah. Oh, dickhead here just spelt whiskey on his jumper. But anywho, this will be strike number 3. I'll be driving later. Cops will be like, you smell like whiskey. Anywho, I've got one more awkward story, but I'm thinking of tying it into my week of comedy because it lands in there. So I'm going to skip it in this stage and we're going to include it in there, okay? So stay tuned for that one. Week in comedy. Insert fucking intro. Kicked off at the Parkwood Tavern on Tuesday night. And it is what it is. It's I like to do that room to try new gear. And try new gear I did. I was actually pretty happy with my set considering. It wasn't necessarily like a comedy crowd, so to speak. I think the biggest table there was like a table of maybe 8 people, I guess. And they were all there to see someone on the lineup. I don't know. Anyway, so they were just pushing through everyone else's sets. And I got up there and I think I tried like 3 new bits, 2 brand new bits and 1 newish bit. And they went about as good as you can hope they went. But I was surprisingly bouncing a lot off the crowd and just like talking to them and mixing them into my bits and shit, which actually felt pretty good to loosen up in that way and not just stick 100% to the script. But that was the Parkwood Tavern. Not much to write home about, you know what I mean? I got to get the new bits out of my mouth, which is all I really wanted to do. Now, I got a message asking if I could help out and fill in 2 spots this week from our friends down at Base Comedy down on the Gold Coast who give me repetitive sets almost weekly. So I was like, hey, it's the least I can do. Let's do this shit. So spot number 1, Wednesday night at the Atrium Bar at the casino. And I've gone, yep, sign me up. Spot number 2 was Friday night at Matic Brewery at Ashmore. Like I've said in the past, I've only had 1 bad gig there. The rest have been fucking crushes. So I was like, yep, I'll take both of them. So Wednesday night comes around. Little did I know when I took the spot, I forgot that Wednesday night was State of Origin night. And I've gone, great, this is going to be horrendous and I'm going to hate every second of this. So I'm driving to the gig and I start playing with my brain. I'm like, maybe the show starts at 7, kickoff is at 8. Maybe people will be so bored before State of Origin, they'll pop into the room beside the sports bar, watch a bit of comedy, help me get a little crush in, and then they'll go back and watch the footy. So I'm like, actually, this is going to be a fucking sick gig. This is going to be my gig of the year. So I drive to the gig and I get there and the casino it's relatively busy, I suppose. A lot of people go there to watch the Origin. Makes sense. And get there, check into the room where the comedy's at. There's 2 people in the crowd and I'm like, this is everything I hoped it wasn't going to be. And I go up to the room runner. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And he goes, oh, the MC's running a little bit late, so we're probably going to kick off closer to like 7:30. And I'm like, oh, fuck, okay. So I'm kicking around. I go get a beer and I'm drinking it. Now, I don't think I'm the only one in the world, but the Alphablokes Podcast, right? I listen to it weekly. And Tommy and Cam on there, they're 2 of the best yarners in Australia, right? And that's why they've built the profile that they've built and the fucking platform that they've built and community and blah, blah, blah. Now, I heard Tommy say last week that he does another podcast called The Reggies, right? And I heard him say they were coming down for the Reggies to buy a racehorse for the podcast, right? To have a podcast racehorse, which they've done for the Alphablokes Podcast as well. And every time Tommy or Cam is on the Gold Coast, they always have a story about going to the casino. So I've heard show's kicking off half an hour late now. So I've got a beer in my hand and I've got half an hour to kill. And I'm like, these boys froth fucking Origin. They always talk about it. Everything's stacking up. And I'm like, I reckon these boys are going to be at the fucking casino. So I stroll over to the sports bar and I'm standing there. And first of all, I see a couple of footy greats. There was fucking Shane Walker, Greg Bird. What's his name? Plays for the Titans. Anthony Don. I think he's retired now as well. But they were there. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, fucking, they've come to the casino to watch the footy. The MC's getting them up to have a chat, blah, blah, blah. And then I look to the table beside all these footy players and I see, if you've listened to the podcast, you know their hats. They've got like a Reggie's fucking, like a cricketer's hat. And I see big tall bloke, and that's Groper from the podcast. And I've gone, oh, fuck, they are here 100%. And as I've looked past Groper, there's Tommy sitting there as well. He's got his Alphablokes shirt on and his Reggie's fucking hat. And I've gone, oh, fuck. I'm like, I think I've just got to man up and go say g'day. And I'm standing there for like 10 minutes and I'm like, I can't fucking do it. That's weird as shit. Even though every week they're like, if you see us in public, come say g'day, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nah, I'm not fucking doing it. So I'm standing at the back of the sports bar. I'm watching the footy players, watching fucking Fox League on the big screen, trying to chip time away, right? And as I'm standing there, I'm drinking my beer and I look to my right and approaching me is fucking Tommy from the Alphablokes podcast. And I've gone, shit. And he's not approaching me. He's walking to the bar or the toilet or something. And I've gone, just say g'day, you dickhead. So we've locked eyes and I've given him a bit of a fucking cheeky smirk or something. I don't know. I probably look like a raging homo now that I think about it. And he's like smiled back at me because he obviously knows fucking trendsetter from way back. And I go, oh, hey, mate, how you going? He goes, g'day. And he's fucking nicest bloke. And he has like a 2-minute chat to me, blah, blah, blah. And we're just chatting in general. He goes, oh, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh, I'm fucking doing comedy in the room next door, just getting ready to bomb my dick off. And he had a laugh and he's like, oh, what time's that kick off? And I'm like, oh, in about 10 minutes or so. And he goes, oh, I'd come watch, but I don't want to lose our table or something like that. And I'm like, no, fucking don't come watch. There's 2 people in the crowd. I would prefer you didn't come and watch. Anyway, there was part of me that felt like, because I've messaged him a couple times on Instagram, right, about the podcast, about fucking other shit, blah, blah, blah. And there are a few times in the conversation where I felt like he half knew who he was talking to and like something wasn't quite clicking. And this is where I wish I just fucking pulled out of the conversation 10 minutes earlier, is I go, oh, I've messaged you on Instagram before. And he's looked at me and gone, oh, yeah. No, I know. And I've gone, oh, okay, you already knew, so I didn't have to fucking say that, you stupid piece of shit. And then I forget what else I said. I said something else stupid, and I'm like, I need to fucking pull the ripcord on this. I go, oh, I got to go, mate. My set's about to start. And he goes, yeah, good luck, buddy, blah, blah, blah. And I left it feeling so fucking yuck inside, right? And I was like, fuck. So I get back to the comedy room. Now there's probably 25, 30 people in the crowd. And I'm like, fuck yeah, this might be okay. First person gets up and it's not going great. The crowd is not there for comedy. And the only thing I can put it down to, right, is all these people, look, the demographic of the room was above 50-year-old people, right? And I'm thinking they've gone to the casino on a random Wednesday night and not realised the Origin was on in somehow, even though it's plastered everywhere. So they've found a quiet room in the casino. Next minute, there's fucking people up there telling dick jokes and stuff. So, yeah, it was hard to get a laugh out of them. I got up there and got a couple of laughs at the start, and then I started into some new gear again, completely lost them. Tried to win them back again at the end with some older gear, and they were gone. They'd checked out, and I was like, fuck. Got off stage, feeling miserable as shit. I went and got my jumper and my keys and shit, and I'm like, I'm bailing, I'm out. So as I'm walking out, these 2 ladies, they're a couple. They call me over and they go, and I've gone, oh, fuck, I've said something that's offended them. They're about to rip me to shreds. And they go, hey, you come over here. And I walked over to them and one of them goes, I don't know what the fuck's up with this crowd, but that's some of the funniest shit we've seen in ages. And I'm like, thank you so fucking much. Like that was so nice to hear. And then obviously I fucked up the conversation with Tommy. I fucked up my set. So I was feeling miserable. So I wasn't really in a talkative mood, but I was trying to like put the persona on that like I like obviously I did appreciate them reaching out. So I've gone blah, 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 and they've gone, oh, what's your Instagram? We'll follow you. 2 weeks in a row, right? What the fuck? So I've gone, oh, it's at Jimmy Misson, and she's searching and shit, and it started to get awkward for both of us. And she goes, oh, I'll find you. It's all good. You head off. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, but that was a bit of a pick-me-up. And then I've had to walk past the sports bar again to get to my car. And you'll never fucking guess who's walking to the toilet at the exact same time, straight past me. Fucking Tommy from the Alphablokes again. And I go, he looks at me, gives me a big fucking smile, and I've gone, oh, hey, mate. And he goes, how'd you go? And I go, ate a bag of dicks. And he goes, oh. And then he what did he say? Some typical Aussie fucking comeback. And I was like, okay. Obviously, he didn't think I was a complete fuckwit, or he would have just like turned and pivot to another room so he didn't have to talk to me. But yeah, shout out to Tommy from the Alphablokes. Hopefully we can get him on one day, or I can get up there and tell them my yarn of all the shit. So yeah, that's another pretty cool thing about their podcast is they get all these celebrities on and shit, but they still get like the fucking average Joe every now and then who's got a crazy story. So reach out if you want to hear my story, boys. Tag Alphablokes in this week's reel. Get the conversation reignited. Anyway, Thursday night then, right? I had a prey surf down at Burleigh. Now, this room's been running for a couple of months now, and I've only done it once. I only did it on opening night, and it was a pretty sick gig. And I'm surprised. Every now and then this gig comes up at other gigs that I'm with comedians at, and they're like, oh, we did a prey surf on Thursday. I'm like, oh, how was it? I keep meaning to get back down there. And they're like, surprisingly fucking sick. So I don't know why some of the bigger people in the scene aren't going down there and doing it. Maybe it's too far away for them. Maybe it just hasn't really hit that level for them to want to go and do it. I don't fucking know. But I committed to Thursday, and after I had done Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I knew I had Thursday, Friday. As we all know, I like to do 2 to 3 gigs a week. That seems to be my limit before I burn out. So I'm like, fuck, if I have to drop one, it's probably going to be this one because I don't want to pull out of Fridays because guaranteed to be a sick gig. And I just manned up and I found out Cody, friend of the podcast, was on the lineup as well. So I'm like, I'll go down, I'll do it. Worst case, I can just have a chat to him, have a hangout, fucking shoot the shit. So I drive down there and I'm second on the lineup, and I'm like, okay, at least I get to get back home relatively early, right? And get there, place is packed, and apparently every week it's fucking packed. So again, I don't know why it's not bigger than it is. MC gets up, goes pretty well, and then first act gets up, goes pretty well as well, and then I get up and I made a deal with myself. I'm like, if I'm driving this way to do this gig, I'm going to try the new shit again. So I went there, started on 2 old classic jokes, and the crowd was half into it. And just before I got up, I found out that 80% of the crowd was there to watch someone else on the lineup who's never done stand-up before, but he lost a bet with his mates that week. So he had to do the bet was if you lose, you have to go and do stand-up comedy. So they were all there basically for the gimmick of watching their mate bomb his dick off. So they weren't there for comedy, and I found this out just before my set. So I've done the old classics, tried to win them over, and I'm like, they're not really here for comedy. So then I just fucking let loose, and I started doing what I did at Parkwood and just talking to them, I guess, trying to win them over a little bit, tie them into my jokes a little bit. And this is like a new learnt skill for me. And I don't do it on like the bigger shows because I feel like if you're on the bigger shows, you have to commit to your set. That's what they've booked you for, blah, blah, blah. But on these open mic nights and stuff, it's more or less free reign. Do whatever you want. So I've started talking to him, and as I'm just talking to him, I'm starting to win him over again. And I'm like, fuck, I have to go into my new bits now. Start my new bits, and because I'm not confident on these bits yet, I'm talking through the new bits with them as I'm trying to perform the new bits, if that makes sense. And they're fucking loving it. Like, they're howling and shit. And then in between two of the new bits, I threw the evolution one in there, right? And I've got to the punch, like I've got to the setup, and then I've gone, only reason being is I tried to suck my own dick so many times growing up. Both my sons should have been born with 2 less ribs. And as I've said that, all the group that was there to watch their mate bomb has turned to one of their mates in the group, and they've all pointed and gone, oh, that's fucking you. Turns out this kid might have tried to suck his dick once or twice in the past. And then I don't know why the fuck I did this, but because everyone's pointing and laughing at him, I didn't know what the fuck to do with the microphone. So I've gone, well, come on, buddy, show us how you do it. And I've just started chanting into the microphone, suck your dick, suck your dick. And the whole fucking venue just started this chant with me. It was loud as fuck, and this guy's gone bright red. It was like one of the sickest things I've ever experienced on stage, to be honest. Anyway, then I finished again on a new bit as well after the dick sucking chant. And yeah, it was a fucking sick gig. So I've reached out to the room runner. Another good thing about that gig is he gives a lot of up-and-comers a chance to like MC, and that's something I want to dabble in a little bit more lately, because when I first started out, I was like, I don't want to fucking MC. Like, to me, it was like, why? I want to be like the feature of the show. Why would I want to MC? And now that I've started talking to the crowd and stuff, I'm like, holy shit, this boosts you to that next level of being comfortable on stage. And if you're bombing your dick off, you still don't really give a fuck, because you can just talk to the crowd or tie something in. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But then, like, as I've stood back watching it recently, 2 of the best MCs in the scene, I think, are Shad Wicker and Peter James, and they do shows together and things like that. And you just watch them MC and just how comfortable they are on stage. They will just go with the flow with anything that happens in the room, right? And then you see them do their regular, like you see them get booked for a headliner spot or something, and they're set. There's so much confidence, and it's so tight, and it's like, oh, it all makes sense. It's like, it's a stepping stone to that headlining spot, and you have to fucking do it. So it took me a while to learn that. I was like, I don't fucking want to be an MC. Like, I don't just want to be the guy up there that introduces the next people, but it's a whole nother learned skill that adds to the whole mastery of stand-up comedy. So yeah, he's been nice enough to give me a little MC spot in a few weeks or something. We're firming things up when we've both got availability, but obviously I'll plug it on here when it all gets locked in. But last gig of the week, I know this week in comedy is dragging out, but there's been a few things happen at my sets this week. So Matic Brewery, Friday afternoon rolls around, all over the news. There is newsflash, do not go to the fucking Gold Coast because a police car ran up the arse by someone doing 110 kilometres, right? And it's destroyed all the highways, all the roads, fucking car park. And I've gone, fuck, I've got to get from Logan to Ashmore. This is going to be hell. Map it, 2 hours, it's telling me. And I'm like, oh, is this fucking... I'm like, I don't want to go sit in traffic for 2 hours, but I'm like, this gig's going to be sick. Another reason I had to do this gig is, as I've mentioned at the start of the year, I want to get around Australia, right? See what the comedy scene is like elsewhere. So I've reached out to a few more comedy clubs again. One of them got back to me. They're like, send us 10 minutes and we'll tell you if we've got anything for you. And I've gone, right, I'm going to have a sick gig here on Friday. I'm going to get it on recording. It's going to be amazing. So I sit in it for 2 hours, right? Finally get to the gig, and there's about 4 people there. And then the venue's like, look, there's a couple more people coming. They've just called. They've asked if we can hold off. So the show kicks off about 7:30 as well. And there's 8 people in the room, and I've gone, fuck, I had to get this on recording. So I've started stressing out, and I'm like, is what it is again. You can't do anything to change it. Let's just get up there, and do a fucking 6 set. So I had my tight 10. Like, if I get asked to do 10 minutes, this is my best 10 minutes that I normally do, right? So I've got that planned out. That's what I'm doing. And I still record anyway in case some sort of genius hits the room and I make these 8 people laugh the loudest they've ever laughed, and I can still send it. So I get up there and I start doing my set, and I get about 6 minutes in, right? And I was about to start the dog bit, and I was like, fuck. Like, I've ran the dog bit into the ground. Like, it's almost a 2-year-old bit now. So I'm like, fuck it. And this is the first time I've ever done this on stage. This is the first time I've consciously gone, like, mixed up my set while I've been on stage, which, again, it's another little stepping stone in this world of stand-up comedy, that because you hear people in this, like the comedians I listen to in the States and stuff, they say all the time, like, you have to be like conscious in the room. If something happens, have a bit that can play off it. If someone says something, tie it into another one of your bits. And it's almost like you don't really know what your set is until you're up there. Like, obviously you might have your opening joke or whatever, but it's almost just like ride that river. And surprisingly, like, that obviously, well, not surprisingly, it's pretty obvious when you say it out loud. That gets the crowd invested in what you're saying because you're playing into shit that's like happening in real time, rather than just getting up there with a stale set and hoping they can relate to what you're saying. So yeah, I got up there, and about 6 minutes in, I was like I was getting good laughs and shit. It was a good set, surprisingly, for 8 people. And I'm like, even though it's a sick set, it's not send to a comedy club worthy, right? So I was up there and I'm like, might as well try these new bits again, try and flush them out. I'd made a couple of little changes from the night before, got up there, ran the 2 new bits, and they fucking, again, I don't know if it's because they're new and they're exciting to say, but probably 2 of the best jokes in my set. And I was like, fuck, I'm glad I made that decision on the fly to just throw out the rest of my set and just go, let's wing it. Let's try this. Try tie it in with what's going on. And yeah, fucking stoked that I somehow made the conscious effort in that situation to make that call and fucking get it done. But hopefully this is exciting for you guys. As I'm saying this, it feels like more of a personal rant style podcast this week than a fun, entertaining one. But like I said, some of you guys like this shit. So last thing I'll touch on the week of comedy, Distillery Road Market gig. Obviously, we had our show last week. We are taking a hiatus for July. We're not going away, but like I said, there's a few things that we want to change to make this bigger and better for the next show. And yeah, we've both made the suggestion that we skip this month just so we can fucking nail it in June, July, August. So there'll be a show in August, so stay tuned. But yeah, it's gonna be fucking sick. It's good that we're both on the same page with things, and we just want to build a sick show there. So let me scroll down here. I've watched and listened to a few things this week. I'll try and get through these as quick as I can. But 2 podcasts. If you're besides this one, obviously, this is everyone's favorite podcast. But if you want to listen to a few good podcasts that I've listened to this week, and I thought maybe this might be a fun little thing as well, is if I plug my favorite podcast I've listened to that week, because that's all I listen to. But I listen to music, but not as much as podcasts. Like, I think I've said it before. I think last week's Spotify Wrapped, I listened to like 96 or 98,000 minutes or something of just podcasts. So I know my way around the traps, you know what I mean? Anyway, one of the first cool one for the week, Dana White was on the Flagrant podcast with Andrew Schultz, and it was just sick. Again, I've heard it multiple times now, Dana White's story, but it was cool the way Andrew Schultz interviews people. It's not just a fucking to the point interview. He almost disguises his questions behind comedy, and he loosens up the person he's interviewing to give like a raw and honest answer. And so a lot of the answers Dana was giving were stuff we've all heard before, but then he's like, there are a few moments in the podcast where he's like, holy shit, I've never I've never said this before, and then told this crazy story. So, yeah, if you want a complete rundown on Dana White's history and how he's built the UFC from fucking literally $0 in the bank to almost selling the UFC to it now being like, I forget what he said, like $6 billion company or something it is these days. It's a crazy story. So go check that out. Another sick one for this week, Joe Rogan Experience. You'll never guess me plugging the Joe Rogan Experience. Bit of a stupid thing to be doing, but he had Tony Hinchcliffe on this week, and sick interview if you've got like 3 hours to waste, like I did. But there was one bit that stood out to me that related to like my week of like stand-up comedy, if that makes sense. They were talking about Tony Hinchcliffe doing the roast of Tom Brady. We've spoken about it. He fucking crushed, had one of the best sets on the night. Now everybody wants a piece of Tony Hinchcliffe. But he basically said he set himself up for this moment, and the set that he did, he knew he had down pat. It was so tight. Everything he wanted to say, he just kept it rolling, you know what I mean? And like he said, there were a few moments in the set where he felt he should have, like I just spoke about before, like spoken to the crowd or the people on stage and like tapped into that real life moment. But he's like, nah, I knew I had to stick to this moment because this is what I'd prepared for, blah, blah, blah. And then him and Rogan started this, it might have only been 5 minutes, but this cool chat about, as they were coming up, how nervous they used to be for all their sets and stuff. And then there was a moment where they realized you only get nervous if you haven't prepared properly, if that makes sense. So if you've written your set down pat and you know it word for word and you're that confident with it that you can tap out of it, fuck around with shit that's going on in the room and then tap straight back into your material. And I think that's like sort of somewhat, obviously to not the level they're at, but it's somewhat where I'm at with my sets at the moment is I know the material so well. Like I'm somewhat comfortable up there now. It's not weird to be on a stage and have these people staring at you and judging you. That's always going to fucking happen. Like for argument's sake, let's say things do go to plan, right? Somehow I sell out at fucking Brisbane Entertainment Centre. Hopefully Suncorp one day. There's probably going to be 10% of that crowd that have been dragged to that show by their partners or they've won fucking tickets on the radio, and they're just going to be sitting there going, who put this fucking dickhead up there? He's not funny. He's fucking rambling nonsense, blah, blah, blah. Some people might think of listening to this episode right now, but I've got my solid core base there that's coming back every week. Downloads have picked up again this week, so I appreciate if anyone did share it or whatever, or whether it's just a change in the season that's brought a couple of people back. But yeah, it's definitely that pick-me-up that I need just to see those numbers going up again, because we sort of plateaued, then they went down a little bit, now they're gradually climbing again. So thank you. Fuck, I don't even know where I went to on that rant, but go listen to those two podcasts. Music, Luke Combs, he needs to fucking... This is a message directly to Luke Combs. You need to stop releasing songs to dads. We know you've recently become a father, and now I think you've got a second one on the way. Holy shit. Luke Combs is one of the best songwriters I've heard in the last 15 years, right? He's taken the country music world by storm, and now he's had a kid. All his songs are about being a fucking dad, and Jesus Christ, taps into the soul. This song is called The Man He Sees in Me, and it's about the way that his son looks at him, and he hopes that he can live up to the expectations of, like, because obviously when you look at your dad, you look at them like they're a fucking superhero, you know what I mean? Like, I had this funny, this could even be a premature premise of the week because I don't have one this week and we'll get to it. But it was funny to me when I moved out of home and we first had Westy. It was like, holy shit, this kid is looking at me for protection. Like he's looking at me like if some cunt breaks into this house, I'm just going to beat the fuck out of this guy. And I'm like, shit, I used to look at my dad like that. And little did I know, probably in the back of his head, he's like, holy fuck, I hope nobody breaks in tonight because I don't want to get the fuck beaten out of me. But yeah, it's crazy the pedestal you put your dad on and things like that. So the other Other things, watch this week. Jo Koy released his comedy special on Netflix. I said it back in the day with Ash and Adrian, and I don't think they listen to Jo Koy, but he's one of the most underrated, best comedians in the world. The shows that this bloke sells out, like he sold out Madison Square Garden like 6 times or something like that. Anyway, he's a hilarious comedian. Now, I put this special on, and the way this special started off, he's also fucking, it's the first special he's done in short sleeve. I didn't realize how fucking inked up he is. He's got like sleeves and shit happening. Anyway, he starts the special in the first 5 minutes. I'm like, oh no, we've lost a good one here. Because he went on this, it wasn't like a political rant or anything like that, but it was a little bit like wokey. I don't even know how to explain it. Go watch watch the whole special, but watch the first 5 minutes. But it was almost like he'd given himself this pass that he is now this giant fucking comedian, like Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor type level, and he almost could just come out on stage and preach his word. But he came out, he said what he had to say in the first, it probably wasn't even 5 minutes, to be honest. It was probably 2 minutes. And then as soon as he started into his regular set, geez, fucking hilarious. Like some of the takes he had on just basic shit. Like even he had this one hilarious bit, right? This is probably my favorite bit of the whole special. He was ripping on like kids these days. When they take a selfie, they'll take a selfie and they'll take 100 of them and then they'll pick the best ones. And then I love it when he taps into like he does this little kid voice sort of thing, and it just fucking makes me laugh. But he's like, I remember when I was a teenager and I was on school camp, he's like, I had 12 shots in this disposable camera. And if I fucked up one of those shots, my mum was going to be so fucking pissed at me. He's like, I ruined everything. He's like, then I had to take it to the like dispensary or something, and then I'd have to wait a week, and then I'd have to go back, show my face to these people that have seen me think that these are my best shots, and then give them back to me, go through it all and just throw 11 of them in the bin just for one half decent photo, and then walk around showing everyone that photo. It was just, obviously it was fucking way better than that, but it was funny as shit, and it just tapped me back into like being at school camp. And you just had that disposable camera and you're like, do I really need a photo of that rock, or should I take a photo of the next rock? Because I've only got fucking 3 shots left in this camera and I want to show everyone how amazing this camp's been. But yeah, funny as shit. Go watch it. Jo Koy, live from Brooklyn, I think it's called. But yeah, one of the best underrated comedians of our time, I think. Now, last thing I dabbled in this week, I finally got around to it since I started reading books and shit again. This has been one book that I've wanted to read, and it just kept getting pushed to the back of the queue. And this week I was just like, nah. I currently, because of all my procrastination and shit like that, I'm the worst for it. I'm the worst at procrastinating. I'm the worst at not knuckling down and just getting what I need to get done. So I went and bought the War of Art, which is a funny little play on the art of war, which is normally what you hear. So the way that he's broken, what's his name? Stephen Pressfield or Prescott? I think it's Stephen Pressfield. If I'm wrong, sorry. But I've listened to this book twice now, and it's fucking exactly what I needed this week. Even after this morning, after my little fucking mental breakdown, I was like, I was going to skip this week, and I'm like, nah, this is what you want your job to be. So shut the fuck up, get in there, put on a performance of a lifetime, and give these people what they need. Because if you quit now, it's never going to fucking happen. So just the way that he breaks down fighting resistance like it's an enemy, like, and every example he has for resistance, I was just like, it's fucking, I can 100% relate to that. And just setting aside part of your day to go and write. Like, if you want this to be your job, you show up to your job regardless of how you're feeling, what's happened that day, whatever. You've etched out these 8 hours of your day to go and do that. And most of the time, I know for me personally, and a lot of you guys listening, it's something that you fucking hate. So if you can make that commitment to show up every day for those 8 hours and do something that you fucking hate, why can't you set aside 1 hour a night and fucking just write what you like. Do something that you enjoy, or come in here and record for an hour, something you enjoy. And obviously it's all shit that I've heard before and shit that I should apply to my life, but sometimes it just takes those little things. And I might even only do these changes for a week or so and fall back into my bad habits. But now I've got that book on my phone. I can, if I feel it slipping, I'll just fucking put it back on. It's literally like a 2-hour listen. So yeah, if you want to go and have a listen to it, go listen to it. I'm going to try and make a couple of little changes he had in there to how I treat the comedy and podcasting and things like that, and see how it all pays off. But even like last few days, and I mentioned it before in the ice bath, now that I've listened to the book, I'll just be standing in the ice bath ready to plunge in, and I'll just be like, this is the resistance shit that he was talking about. He's like, I'm in there for 3 minutes. So the quicker you drop down and plunge your head under, the quicker you can get the fuck out. Or you can just stand here with your legs in here all day just going, this fucking sucks. But yeah, the brain is a crazy fucking place to be. And my brain in particular, I would not wish it on my worst enemy. It's a fucked up place to be in there. There's actually, I might get it for next week's motivational clip of the week. But yeah, there's a clip from the lead singer of Linkin Park, who obviously committed suicide a few years ago, and there's a clip of him basically saying his brain is a dark place to be. Like he doesn't like being left alone in there, and I could just fucking relate to that to an extent. Anyway, we're not going to fucking get into that today because it's been a long morning and it's only 10 o'clock. Anyway, last thing I had to touch on, UFC 303 drama. We spoke about it last week. We're still not really much clearer on what's gone down, but the press conference still hasn't taken place. UFC 303 is in like 2 weeks or something. At this stage, the fight's still on. But, yeah, the only thing that's really come out is Conor McGregor has a minor leg injury, which he obviously lost his last fight because he broke his shin in half. So I'm going to be pretty fucking devo if this fight drops out. There could have been breaking news while I'm recording this or by the time this comes out. But fingers crossed we still get to see Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler in, I think it's on like the 29th or something of this month. But yeah, if there's one fucking fight I would be happy to see before fucking the UFC goes bankrupt or whatever, it's that fight. It's going to be fucking sick. But premature premise, like I said, I don't have one for this week. Only reason being, I've spat out a few the last few weeks and most of them are working on stage, but they need trimming, they need knuckling down on, and I think they're going to be strong bits after time. Like that LOL bit that I did the reel for this week seems to be crushing now. I don't know fucking why or whatever, but it is. What was the other one I was trying this week? The familiar sounds one, where I'm like, turn your ignition, now picture your fucking dad coming, blah, blah, blah. That's crushing as well. So it's good. It's good to work these bits out on here and then try them on stage. It's all fucking a work in progress. But this is my motivational clip for the week. Somewhat ties into the war of art that I spoke about before, but it's more or less just all about time and how we spend it and things like that. And this clip is another one that's popped up for me over the last couple of years, but I figured I'd come and share it with you guys. So let's go.
If you wake up every day with $84,600 in your bank account, and every day at the end of the night, it's gone, whether you wasted it or not, and then the next day you get another $84,600. You would do everything in your power to spend it because you know the next day you're getting $84,600. You don't want to leave nothing there. You'd make the best of it, right? You get 84,600 seconds. Why waste time? It doesn't carry over to the next day. It doesn't earn interest. You know, take every day and every moment and make something of it. Make something positive.
Crazy, right? When you look at it that way, like 100%. If we, like you said, if we got $84,000 in our bank account every day and we knew it was going to be gone tomorrow, you'd be blowing it left, right, and center. Maybe not even blowing it, donating it, helping people out, things like that. Yeah, it's crazy. And just while we touch on that, that's another. We might even touch on this in a little more detail next week because I know we're coming up to time. But when I went on Ty's podcast the other week, the Roads We've Walked podcast. He finished the podcast with a question that it jars you when you get hit on it, when you get hit with it in the spur of the moment. But he just said, "What do you want to be remembered for?" And now that I've had time to think about it and shit, I'm not even going to say anything further. I'm going to come up with something for next week. But it's really hit me that like the mental health issues and shit that I'm going through, the stuff that I've been through, and it's fucking lame as it sounds, and I hate saying it, overcome it. There's so many people out there struggling with shit. And I don't know, part of me has now come up with this other like state of mind where I want to almost help those people and not be like, I don't want to be like a motivational speaker or anything like that, but just fucking, I don't know. That's what I meant. Yeah, maybe I'm speaking about this prematurely. This is my premature premise for the week. But let me have a think about that, and we'll talk about it a bit more in depth next week. But yeah, and just quickly, like I've said it before, if I finish a gig, say in the South Bank area in Brisbane, and I'm coming off a high of having a good set, and driving past the Brisbane Children's Hospital and just looking at each one of those windows lit up and just seeing like a parent or a kid sitting in that window just looking out of the street fucking crushes me. And I just wish there was something I could do to help those people, help like anyone really. Like, and even Nikita came back from Melbourne. She's like, there's such a fucking crazy homelessness problem down in Melbourne. Like, it was so sad to see. And I'm like, when I go to the gym in the morning, I go, babe, literally 2 minutes from our house, there's a homeless problem. When I go to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm driving down the street, there's just homeless people like carting their life on their back to their daytime setup, I guess, where they're probably not going to be judged by the public sitting out in the open. I don't know. But yeah, I want to try and work something out where I can help people a little bit more. Anywho, shows for the week. Thursday the 13th of this month, I'll be at Last Night on Earth down at Southport. Probably trying these new bits again. I'll have them firmed up by Thursday and hopefully into some little crushes. So come check me out there. Saturday the 15th. This is my little thank you for filling in those 2 spots last week. I will be back at Home of the Arts. I mentioned this a few weeks back. This is a paid spot in a awesome fucking venue filled to the brim of, I don't even know how many it seats, but it's the ultimate gig in my eyes that you want to get on. Get paid, get a large audience number, and more or less guaranteed to have a fucking crush. So if you're down that area, head to Home of the Arts on Saturday the 15th. Come support me. Come say hey. But if you can't get there, send through submissions to cantgetanyworsepod@gmail.com or via DM on Instagram at cantgetanyworsepodcast. And if I don't see you before then, I shall see you later.
Can't get any worse, we'll make you see. There's always a silver lining.